Hello and welcome to Thursday. Are you ready? That's a disappointment, isn't it? Always goes down in my life. Let's try once more. What a tragedy. Should we try this one too? Let's try this one too. My name, that was unfortunate. Oh, good morning if you weren't here already. My name is Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Thursday Coffee with Tara with guest. There's a Tara. Go, guest. And of course, we've got other guests here. Our four pinata of the apocalypse still with us. Peter Capaldi is still with us. He's been quiet this week, hasn't he? It's been unbelievable. But I'm so thrilled to see so many of you joining me once again. So we should do the coffee thing first. Like, cheers to you all. I hope you're having a fantastic time. Oh, thank you, Dal. We'll introduce the very attractive man behind me shortly. But hello, Jose. Hello, Christine. Hello, Narelle. Hello, Kylie. Oh, Lauren. Hello, Lauren. Hello, Kelly. It's great to see you, Kel. It's been years. It has been. It's been a decade, Kel. Great to see Maeve. Hi, Maeve. Prue's in the house. SC. SC. We're still working towards marriage material for you. I promise, I promise, I promise. Doug's in the house, Nimal's in the house, Karen's in the house. Mary! Oh, Mary, you're wonderful. You and I have been talking all morning, Mary. Lovely to see you. Hey, and gorgeous Andrea's in. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Paulette's in. Alyssa, reading your work right now. Alyssa, it's fantastic. Karen's in. Barb the Mighty. Barb, you've changed my life. Can I just say, I'm going to ponder much of this weekend about my new name at the conclusion of this gig. It's going to be very important to me. Good morning, Belinda. Good morning, Franco. Good morning, Elise. Elise, you are wonderful. Hello. Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Kemi. Nat, great to see you, Sal. God, it just keeps going on and on and on. And Lauren, you just keep keeping me honest, Lauren. If I get it wrong, you tell me I'm getting it wrong, and frequently. So, team, it is wonderful to see you for this very unusual, very special turn in our morning conversations. This is a bit zombie apocalypse today, but I hope it's an important moment for you. And I'll tell you where we're at the moment. There's a lot of talk of crisis, isn't there? It's just sort of everything's a bit of a crisis, everything's a little bit chaotic, and we're getting a lot of in the emails, what if this happens, what if that happens, on and on we go. Or it's a gonna, coulda, shoulda sort of experience, yeah? Now, my argument is, and really what we've based these coffee mornings on, is that conversation and compassion and collaboration is really, really, really important. And together, I mean, the brightest people on the planet are on this call. Together, let's just stay together and focus on the future. Now, the trouble we've got is if you think that everything's sort of going to go wrong and everything's a bit terrible, then the chances are it's sort of going to be that way. So if you think everybody's going to get sick and everything's going to just go terrible and you're going to fail your PhD, that research project is not going to succeed, then you know what? It probably will happen. But if we focus on the alternatives and the trajectories and the futures, plural, that are available to us, then maybe we have a chance. And if you think, and I know we've got a lot of students out there that are thinking, right, this coronavirus, this is the end of my PhD. And trust me, it's not. It's really not. And the thing is, by thinking that, right, well, this is the end, really, this is just the end of everything. By thinking that, it's not helping you, it's not helping your thesis, it's not helping your research, and it's not helping me help you. And also, it's just not true. As we talked about yesterday, we're all going to have to find different ways of working. And different is not lesser. Different is good. Different is exciting. Different is challenging. Different can actually be transformative. Incredible things can happen through an affirmation of difference. And most importantly, what I'd say, the sort of deep existential moment that I'd share with you this morning already is being different is not an end point. Difference is a starting point, it's not an end point. And it is important, I think, to look with really clear eyes and a clear heart and a clear brain and make decisions. So every morning that we've had together as a family, we've had a trope, we've had a theme, we've had a theory that we're going to explore. And I thought the gig we do today is decisions. Decisions about yourself, decisions about your friends, your family, your PhD, and your future. So shall we do decisions today? Hell yes. So as I said, and I know this was a big deal to Alyssa, the point I've been making in the last couple of days is ask yourself, what can I do today? What can I do today? Not all the stuff I should have done last month and now, and all that regret and stuff. Don't go there. That's not helping anybody. And not like, I won't be able to do all these things. Just start with, what can I do today? So I also want you to think about how the decisions that we make today provide an arc to your future. So let's make decisions, and then today we're going to look at the trajectory of those decisions. So we're going to talk to a very special guest shortly for a very important reason that may surprise a lot of you, and I suppose trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. But also I want to try and capture something about this time and what we can learn from it in terms of managing horror and tragedy and recovery and success. And here's one I prepared earlier. Professor Jamie Quinton, you think you're having a poor day. This poor man married me. Can you imagine that? You reckon you're having a bad time putting up with me an hour a day. He has to put up with me relatively permanently. But why Jamie's important is he's a professor of physics and nanotechnology. But can I say, because he's a professor of physics and nanotechnology, he was also formerly a PhD student, formerly a postdoc, during another moment when the world appeared to be ending. And he also is a supervisor of PhD students. So we've talked a lot about methodology this week. Have the disruptions to methodologies, and some great conversations have been happening about how to manage those disruptions. But I thought we'd also talk about today, and we've got a lot of crew on this call with the group that are supposedly most impacted by what's happening with corona, and that is the crew in clinical environments and lab-based environments. So, it's like, will the labs close and what's going to happen and what's the story here? So I can talk about that, but Jamie lives that on a daily basis. And team, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be monitoring all of these answers. We've got Jamie for a little bit of time, so we're going to use that time, and then I'm going to go back and engage with all the comments. But can I say, after what we were talking about Lauren yesterday, Jamie's off to go do an interview for a job appointment today. So he's about to appoint somebody to the college. So when we're going, there's no work.
Yeah, 4 of them.
Like 4 jobs?
No, 4 interviews.
4 interviews for 1 job. So don't get excited. Don't get excited. But jobs are still taking place. So we're going to really use Jamie's expertise. I'm going to sort of move over a bit. Are you feeling a bit comfortable?
Are we worried about the 1.5 metres?
Too late, mate. Too late. We're so over so it's like social distancing, except if you're married, because you're just stuffed. Mind you, did you notice that Prince Charles got the coronavirus? Did you all see that on Twitter? But Camilla doesn't.
Prince Andrew.
Don't go there. But can I say, the thing about Camilla is like, how's that happening? So that's a whole thing I'm going to explore later on. But look, this is sort of the trigger warning bit. So yes, these conversations are light and fabulous, but this is actually a very serious and very sad and very complicated bit. And we've actually never had this conversation, and I don't actually know how you're going to answer this, Jamie Darlin. And what I want to do, you're still a very young man, he's younger than me, is take you back to a moment in your career where your career could have ended. So, Jamie, can you tell us about your postdoc, and September 11?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Good morning for us. Good afternoon, good evening. And I'm suddenly in a two Ronnies thing. I brought a nightlight with me for the people who
Oh, we discoing?
Well, you can disco later if you want.
Fed. So that's yeah. You're a bit of a mover and a shaker. That's great. I'll take that while you answer the question
No
about
problem.
September 11.
And hello to everyone who I'm seeing lots of hi Jamie. So hi everyone. September 11. So I did my postdoc in the US in New Jersey at Rutgers University, and the September 11 story is actually quite a long one, and I'll spare you the story itself. Suffice to say that it was a typical morning. It was around this time of the morning, in fact, I went to work that morning, and then the events unfolded. And that was one of those events in life where I could have easily become quite paralytic, really struggling to respond, react. What do you do in that situation, right?
Yeah.
And you basically go into what I would call survival mode. You go into survival mode, and our students go into survival mode a lot. I watch that and see that happening for various things. And it really is all about what you do here. So I did my postdoc in the US. I was quite fortunate. I worked with Professor Ted Mady at Rutgers Uni in New Jersey, and he was probably one of the most amazing academics that I've had the privilege of working with. I think he was beyond retirement age, but he had a joint appointment in physics and chemistry at Rutgers. And he was the state of New Jersey professor of surface science.
Wow.
And I learned a lot. I learned so much from him and from that working there with that group.
Can I go back there though? Because I mean, I suppose wherever all of us, I mean, we've got a lot of young people on this call, a lot of older crew on this call as well. And a lot of us remember that experience. A lot of us were in different time zones. But can I take you back there? Because Jamie, you were a young man. So you were a young man in a foreign country with a wife, with a wife and also a very young baby.
So
could you tell us how that felt?
So Jaden was 1 when I went to the US, and he was 3 when September 11 happened, just turned 3. And at the time, I was at work that morning. Within about 45 minutes of around 9 o'clock, it became quite clear that nothing was going to happen that day. And I was actually located about 15 to 20 miles from the World Trade Center as the crow flies. And we had weird behaviour. You know, you see the strangest human behaviour you can imagine.
Which we're seeing now, of course, which we are all seeing
people
now.
Were flocking to the building next door to ours, which was Matt's, to go to the top floor and look at the skyline to see it for themselves.
Wow.
That didn't happen for me. I was more worried about my family at the time because I've got people around me. I'm in a facility.
Right.
And in fact, the lab that I worked at was a converted nuclear bunker, so it was actually under the ground concrete bunker, so I was quite safe. But I was worried about their mental health and the state of their mind because they were at home and all they had really was a television to keep Jaden entertained. And so at that time of the morning, he would have been watching, Sesame Street or something like that. And this thing would have, and it did, just saturate the media.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you're a foreigner too. You were, and those of us that have worked around the world, a lot of people in this have worked around the world. It's dreadful when dreadful things happen and you're in your home country. When dreadful things happen and you're away from your family, and a lot of us at this point with all the borders shut down, we're away from our families as well. But that makes it a lot worse. So
and
what
the world is a small place, but
yeah.
when something like that happens, suddenly the distance gets amplified. And with the borders shutting and things like that happening here in Australia, and with lockdowns and shutdowns, it's perfectly normal, I think, for people to start to feel isolation imposed on them as opposed to something you choose to do yourself. So they call it self-isolation, but, is it?
And there's stuff happening in your head, that's right. Because what I want to get to, and I know it's hard for contemporary masculinity to be a part of this journey, but do you remember your reaction? Do you remember the visceral feelings? Do you remember what went on, your feelings at the time? Could you tell us? Could you remember?
Yeah. Well, so, of course, for me, it wasn't a case of an instant where something happened and then everything became the new frame. The frame changed 6 or 7 times during that morning because the first thing that happened was the first plane hit the first building, and then when it was reported, it wasn't specified what it was.
That's
right.
right.
A plane had hit the World Trade Center, and I was fortunate, I suppose, enough that I lived in an office next door to the PA of the professor who was running the show, and she was well connected. And so she was reporting things as they unfolded.
Right.
A plane has hit the World Trade Center. Oh, what kind of plane was it? Was it a Cessna? Not sure. And then as it unfolded, you learned more about all of the events that happened. And you have that realization of, okay, this is not an accident.
Yeah, I remember that.
And, I had about a 15-minute time period where the first thing was, oh, great, here we go.
Yeah.
And then what do you do about it, right? So you need to respond, but how do you make a sensible response when you're in survival mode? It's really difficult to do, right? And so what happened was I rang up home and I asked them what they were doing. Are they aware of it? I gauged pretty quickly they weren't aware of it.
Wow.
And of course, then I made the mistake of saying, stay on that channel, don't change the channel. And about 20 minutes later, I had that thinking of nothing's really happening. People can't concentrate. There's no real point in being here. And I rang home again just to see how they were going. And then I knew that they knew what was happening. And so because they were mentally shut down, it helped me because I felt this real responsibility. They're there for me. I went over there. I took them with me. And so at that point, I flagged with the office that, hey, no one's going to get any work done today.
Yes.
I'm going home. And then I went home, and then because they were in shock, you learn a lot about yourself when you're in a community of people and when you see the community of people behave or respond or react. I sort of found that part of me that said, it doesn't matter what's going on in my head and what I'm thinking and feeling now. It's my responsibility to make sure that the other people feel safe and supported and so on. So I kind of went straight to there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the response is what's the immediate need? It's like first aid training, danger response, then airway, breathing, circulation. So what's the danger? There's no immediate danger. There's a lot of potential danger, but you don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Is there any immediate need for a response? And so I actually had that realization that just being there was probably the best thing I could do, which is why I love these live Facebook chats, because we're here for each other. We're forming this brilliant community of people who can share their thoughts and feelings about how they're going with things.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, so there's the emotional state, there's the person, and there's the family. So I think we all really got there. I'm going to move us, if I can, Jamie,
Sure.
to the research.
Yeah, sure.
To the research. So you're in a foreign country. You've got a new family there, a little baby. So now, tell me about what happens. You've got a postdoc. They were hard to get then. They're hard to get now. Tell me about data collection in the shadow of September 11.
Yeah. Well, of course, everything changed very quickly. And my role actually was to lead the group synchrotron research at Brookhaven National Lab. So I worked in my role was to be a suitcase scientist and travel to a Department of Defense facility, which, if you can imagine, and I can tell you lots of information about that in terms of the behaviour and the response, but what was a rather simple exercise before September 11 became quite challenging afterwards. But you have to make that conscious choice of, what do I do with this? I decided that in order for my family to go back to Australia, which is what they really wanted to do, I actually had to increase my commitment to going to the synchrotron and making the measurements. And that was an uncomfortable decision, but it was in fact the best one. It was the best one because logistically it was the smartest response for making sure that the progress that I needed to make to finish the job that I was hired to do was done, and also that I positioned myself that when I actually leave this job and take my family back to Australia, that I might be in a position to get another job.
Right, so this is important. So when you've heard me say to students, say to all of you guys, say it through all the vlogs as well, focus on what you can do today. Maybe I've become so obsessed about that because of Jamie's story. So September 11 happens, and you know the family wants to move back to Australia, but you don't sort of give up at this point. You go, well, you know what, I'm going to dig in harder and get the data sets so that you can get the publications, fulfill your responsibilities within a shorter period of time. So you came back to Australia after September 11. Now, this is really important. We're older people now. You're a young scholar then. Looking back on the decisions that you made at that point, is there anything, and I don't know the answer to this question, but is there anything you would have done differently?
Well, I have to say that at the time, it was a very heart-wrenching choice to make. I actually really loved that job, and I loved working for that boss. And the conversation I had with him when I decided to leave was something that will stick in my mind for the rest of my days. And Ted, of course, unfortunately, is no longer with us. He worked long into his retirement age with both professorships, and he sadly died of cancer. But would I have done it differently? I think in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it differently because each decision was carefully made. I didn't hastily just go, what's like, even though I was in survival mode, I certainly went in and out of survival mode. And after September 11 happened, there was a lot of lingering fear because I lived in New Jersey and there was the anthrax scare, and the anthrax went progressively closer to where we lived. The mail carrier delivered the mail twice a day and once on Saturday. And in conversations with him saying, you know, I'm a surface scientist, how come you're not wearing gloves, etc., because the protocol said so. The poor guy said, oh, it's so annoying to put them on, take them off, and all the rest of it. I just can't be bothered. And I explained to him that his life may depend on it. And of course, you know, that went for a considerable amount of time. And not only those things, but the media was more responsible for terrorism than the act of terrorism on September 11. So watching the TV, you know, we didn't have Facebook and so on in those days, but TV was Facebook, and all of the news, all of the TV channels in the US in that area at the time, of which the TV came from the North Tower of the World Trade Center, and I watched the reception change as that tower collapsed. They all had the same message, and all of it was about being scared. So that made it harder. You had to make uncomfortable choices in feeling uncomfortable yourself, wondering, you know, especially on September 11, I wondered if we were going to survive the day, because we lived between the 3 airports in New York. And just take a breath. Even though you're feeling anxious, even though you're feeling uncomfortable, time is your friend. And that is important because 3 seconds is a long time. If you think about it, whether you make a decision now or you wait the extra 3 seconds and consider another option, 3 seconds is huge. So if you can slow things down, especially when you're feeling anxious, you want time to speed up and get it over with so you're not anxious anymore. Take your time, have a good think about it, and be strategic with everything you choose to do. So, and then I consciously made the uncomfortable choice of I'm going to have to do uncomfortable things so that I end this situation as soon as I possibly can control, right?
Yeah.
And I think whenever I'm thinking about this word resilience, which I know this one doesn't like very much, I think resilience is flexibility of mind. And if you can look at a situation, and this was a dire situation. I actually didn't know how I was going to solve it when it happened. And then think about it in terms of an opportunity. How can I turn this situation into an opportunity? It's changed my circumstances. It's been changed for me. What can I do with these new circumstances to maximize what I need to achieve as an outcome from it? And that's really it. that underpins everything. And it is flexibility of mind, and it does come back to Henry Ford's classic quote of whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you're right.
You're right. Now,
So,
I want to ask, I mean, as your hair just exploded, I'm quite emotional. I'm just hooked in here. I don't know about
yeah,
anybody else.
my photographic memory is having a bit of a
Yeah,
journey.
you're right.
Yeah,
You're right. What I want to ask now, and what we're going to be doing for the rest of today and in our final coffee morning tomorrow morning, is thinking very much career. So the steps we go from here for everybody's career post this. So look, you had a truncated postdoc. You had some publications. It's probably not the postdoc that you wanted or your great mentor wanted.
That's right.
But so can you tell me something about what happened to your career, good and ill, because I think it was both, post this truncated postdoc?
Can I just very quickly add what I did, what I actually did as a result of that decision, the process that I talked about?
Yes.
So I decided I was going to leave and come back to Australia, bring my family back to safety, because we lived in the middle of the country on a 7-acre farm and living in the concrete jungle that's New Jersey in the tri-state area versus living on a farm away from population. It's a no-brainer when you're worrying and caring about your family, right? So I that was the goal. How do I achieve it? And what I did was I negotiated with my boss, and you know, to his credit, he was quite amazing. And I said to him, I want to, like I told him, you know, look, my family really don't want to be here. And the place became militant, and anyone who wasn't a US citizen was automatically treated badly because they weren't a US citizen. You can't trust anyone when you're scared.
Xenophobic times.
Yep, so
we're still there.
Definitely witnessed the best and worst of that. And by the same token, I witnessed the most amazing unification of disparate communities, all under the unity of the situation. And it was amazing to witness, but of course, I was one of them, not one of us. Yeah. But when I went and talked to Ted, and I said to him, oh, Ted, I really want to go home. I want to take my family home. But by the same token, I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity he gave me. And I didn't want to let him down, and I also didn't want to let myself down. And I had thought through a strategy, which was, Ted, I want to increase my time at the synchrotron making measurements, which was, you know, round the clock sort of stuff. And so before September 11, I went there I've spent probably 40% of my time there. And then after September 11, it was more like 75 to 80% of my time there. So I was actually away from my young family more for several months so that I could get the data, because I knew the program that we wanted to run. And then negotiating with him, then I would like to go back to Australia and then work on the outputs. Now, that was a big test of faith, I suppose, of him and his faith in me and what I was capable of, because I could have disappeared and said and done nothing more. But true to my word, I did that. So I got all the data I could through the access we had. Then I went back to Australia, and then I worked really hard to fulfill the promise that I made him. And that was a win-win scenario, because it kept my career on track and my track record happening. It did the right thing by someone who actually went to a lot of trouble to take me from middle of nowhere, New South Wales, to the US. And at the end of it, it was, you know, your question, what would I do differently? I wouldn't do anything differently, I don't think, because I tried my best and I made the best of the situation. And I don't think I could have done better.
Did it impact on your career though?
Well, I thought it did. I was really scared about that. And certainly that next job, so when I came back to Australia, you know, with my tail between my legs, I kind of did the best I could, and I went back to the group that I did my PhD with. And luckily for me, because I was my supervisor's first student, so my supervisor's only a couple of years older than me, he actually went on sabbatical that year, and he gave me the opportunity to look after things while he was overseas. And so it was a casual thing, and you know, you pull things together as best you can. And then I was really lucky that the next job I applied for was here at Flinders.
So that's remarkable. It's luck, but it's also hard work and faith and belief and just keeping moving forward.
Yeah, I do, and even now, you know, I feel incredibly lucky. I feel very fortunate that my education and my career has done what it has, simply because that was one of those situations where I really did think, that decision I made, which was choosing safety for my family over my career, I did worry that was going to be a big mistake.
And you survived. Can I also say there's a certain Jaden Quinton
Hi, Jaden.
that's just joined the call. So a very attractive older young man now has just joined us. Gorge Jamie, I'm conscious of your time. I need to pull you, if I can, to now and to you as a supervisor. And this is really important. So I can gob on, and I got a big gob, and I can talk. But it's good to have another experienced supervisor in a completely different field here. So for the experimental scientists out there, for the social scientists doing field work, clinical work, what do you recommend now, right now, that crew do?
So of course we have a crisis that's evolving. So the world is changing every couple of days, and the level of lockdown is changing, and access is changing. You can choose to be paralyzed by this. You can say things are happening around me. I've got no control over anything. I might as well just give up, or worse, stop and then start blaming everyone and everything. Or you can say, okay, what can I control? What can I control that I can make the most of right now? Which is actually, while you have access and while you have the opportunity, get on with it. Make the most of the opportunity. There may be, that opportunity might disappear on you. And what I find interesting is this idea of, I won't be able to do something because it's going to be long and involved and it'll stop in the middle. When it comes to data collection and scientific investigation, you never make the definitive measurement the first time you make it. It never happens, right? You have to do the crude experiment first and get a feel for, is it going to work and all the rest of it, and then you refine it and you do it again, and then people get frustrated at this point because they think, I just want to do it one more time, and then they do it, and then they realize, no, I've got to do it again. And
experimental science.
Certainly in lab-based sciences, that is a typical thing, right? You never do it right the first time. And not only that, but we have things like equipment failures and all sorts of problems. It could be getting ethics approval and waiting for that. It could be, we have a storm and the roof floods and the lab gets rained on. That happened to us one time.
Refrigeration breaks down.
Yeah, catastrophic failure of aspects in parts of the instrument. All of these things happen, and I think for any PhD student in particular to go into their project thinking that I'll design this thing, I'll follow the design and I'll finish it and do it on the first go, I can't imagine that being a possibility. Certainly not in hands-on experimental work.
So is your advice to start and try?
I think so, because what you do is you reflect on what you do as you do it, and then you refine the method. And when it comes to your thesis, if you're doing an empirical-based investigation, the examiner just wants to know, do you know what you're doing? Right?
And part of that is managing trauma, managing problems, managing issues. Stuff happens, and the issue is, the great research is how you've managed the problem, and not that there are no problems.
Here's the kicker that no one thinks of, right? Your ability to be flexible and manage the disruptions actually improves your employability when you're finished. So every PhD must have some kind of disruption. For the students out there who are watching, hi guys, I'd like to ask you a question. So I've seen many PhD students, their September 11 moment happens when they're writing up their PhD, and then they go back to the literature. So they might have done their literature research, right? The literature review. And then they've kind of just peered in and out over the years while they're doing their investigations. And then when they go to write up, they go back and they do one more go of the literature search. And then they find a paper that's published on some of the work that they're actually doing. And they have a meltdown. It's like, someone's just published my thing. The last 3 years of my life just been a waste of time, right? It's just been published by someone in North Korea, right? And the reality of the situation is, it's an opportunity in disguise, because there is no way they did everything you did exactly as you did it. They actually validate and verify the importance of your work, because if something's just been published in the area you're working in, that makes it of world importance,
You're
right?
probably in the right direction.
Exactly. And then you can compare with them, and it's an extra data set. So it's a win-win situation in disguise if you can sort out how you reshape and reframe your position on it.
Last two questions, because I'm conscious you've got to go do an interview.
Yeah, I do.
Last two questions. Last one, if I or second last one, if I can. Just and a quick answer to this one, if you can. We're sort of entering a doomsday scenario at the moment. People are going straight
if you believe it is.
straight to the end of the world. So why is that happening? Because I'm surprised at that, but you've sort of lived that. Why are people going straight to it's the end of the world?
I'm glad you asked me that, because a second ago when you said I want you to answer this quickly, I'm thinking identity. I want to talk about identity. And this is actually, you've just asked me about it in the question. So students, they wrap their identity up in their PhD. And in the lab-based sciences, they're typically people in their 20s. They're typically people who left school, went to uni, finished their undergraduate and honours and whatever, a master's, and then they go into their PhD. So they're typically in their 20s when they do. And it's a 3-year program. 3 years is a long time.
It is.
It is a long time relative to the length of the life
and of course,
a 20-year-old.
that's the Australian model, 4 years, 5 years in the North American, a lot of African nations models, yeah.
And we have, up until recent times, kind of worked within that frame of 4 years, 5 if you need it. But with funding, we're down to 3. But the point is, you spend 3 years of your life on this. You do have a vested interest in the outcome. It's perfectly natural to wrap your identity up in it. I am the PhD is me. And if something disrupts it, and you're thinking about what this thing is, because you've got your self-esteem, your identity, things wrapped up in it, if it's rattled in some way, especially by something external you can't control, you have 2 choices. You can let it paralyze you, or you can realize that it's a change in circumstances. The change in circumstances happened to you. You didn't ask for it. You didn't make it happen. And mind you, some students do make it happen. They make a mistake and they destroy something that can't be replaced. Very rare. If any of my students watching, please don't do that. But,
I destroy a lot though.
And one of my professors when I was a PhD student said to me, experience is proportional to the value of equipment broken, but don't break anything. Your identity is important to you, and so I understand the human response of this is now destroying my picture of how things are meant to be.
Yes.
So
final question before you head off, and it's about you, but it's about friendships and relationships. When September 11 happened, blogs had just occurred, so we're very early in Web 2, really, really early, and all of what we consider now to be social media hadn't happened. We've got that now. Tell us about friendships and relationships that are forged in times like this, and how how social media can be used in a productive, benevolent, and useful way. You think, Darlin, reflecting back on?
Well, they're absolutely critical.
Yeah.
There is nothing to compare with feeling alone on the other side of the planet when all of your family, your friends, your support are on the other side of the planet. So when I was there, of course, I only knew one other person from this side of the planet who was there at the same time, and he worked at the synchrotron. He was from Boston University. He was doing his PhD at the time, and his name is James Downs. And James, if you're watching, hello. James is at Macquarie Uni now, and he's the Associate Dean of Teaching and Learning in their Faculty of Science. And, being a Kiwi, the Anzac spirit was very strong with us because we actually knew each other. We used to give each other a bit of ribbing before it happened, but when it did happen, there was that connectivity. There was a little bit of home, and so our friendship became stronger because of it. And that's going to naturally happen in times of adversity. You'll form strong friendships with people, and again, what can you control? What can't you control? People are people. Some people are amazing. Some people are not.
But you can see here in real time, Jamie, we've got
I'm watching
relationships, community, people that have met this week that are going to know each other for the next 30, 40 years.
Absolutely.
This is just simply remarkable.
There are some people I'm seeing write comments in there that I've known for 30 or 40 years.
It's lovely to see you. Darling, well, I'm conscious you're heading to an interview.
Yeah, I need to
can we all just do this to our Jamie? I'm deeply moved. I can see the comments here. I'm a bit, sweetheart, have a good day.
No worries.
Go hire a good person.
I bought a piece in my office. This is my Far Side mug. That is Einstein's general theory of neoliberalism, where he discovers that money is actually time. Time is actually money.
Have a good day.
All right.
Go appoint somebody fabulous.
I will.
Thank you for your time. You are a wonderful human being.
I'm sorry I can't stick around for desk dancing, but...
Well, we're doing that now. We are just all... And gorgeous Christine, who is inverting your story, feels that very deeply too. So when you're away from your people during a time such as this, it's an incredible experience.
Have a strong sense of who you are. And if you can make that independent of your PhD or your work, you'll be stronger for it. And when things happen, you don't get wrapped up in the trauma that goes with it.
Yeah. Sweetheart, go.
Thank you. See you all later.
See you soon. So I have so much to say about that. I can see we've got hundreds of comments here. It's extraordinary. Love you, sweetie pie. Have a good day. So guys, that was phenomenal. And that's sort of what I wanted for us, because in difficult times, what do you do? And what sort of moment is equivalent to what we're going through? And the answer is, take care, baby, love you. The answer is, of course, September 11. And that's why, bizarrely, one of the first conversations I had with Jimmy as we just met was that, because it was so rich and present and effervescent and powerful for him to this day. And I think that was a great model for us all, I think, to think about, right, well, we're probably living through that now. It's different because it hasn't got that propulsive moment. This has been a builder of a tragedy in so many ways, but we're here now and we are together, so let's make it work. But of course, okay, are you ready? Because we've got a little bit of the gig to go, a few key ideas about publishing and work and professional development that we're going to talk about in the last 15 minutes. But obviously, it's now time for desk dancing. Jen, are you limber? Jen, you ready? We're going to do this. So team, are we rocking? Oh, have I got a track for you? Have I got a track for you? Are you ready? Are you ready for desk dancing? I'll just check the comments. Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Okay, let's do this. Good on you, Roz. Oh, one of my favourite tracks ever. I half remember dancing to this a long time ago. It was a great time. Let's have that time again. Desk dancing, let's go. Come on, SC. Do you remember the Builder tracks? How good was this? Do you remember how, like, the remix, the Builder lasted 12 and a half minutes? Good morning, Monica. Dance, darling. Monica in the dance. Oh, come on, baby. Fantastic, Monica. Wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. You look fantastic. You have to go. You're a groove, girl. Come on. The whole office can dance, can I say? They're well qualified, they're brilliant, they're magnificent, but they can also dance. Good morning, Steve Barrett. So Steve, I say he's the head of people and culture at Flinders University. Give him a dance, Steve. Who knew the head of people and culture would be grooving this morning? Thank you, Steve. We're live. Take care, Steve. He's a very important man, but he can dance. Oh, we've had fun this morning. What a great track. Everyone remember Rosella? I wonder what happened to her. I'm sure Christine will be able to tell me. So, team, how fantastic was that? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling fantastic? Lauren and Jen, we're winning. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Go, Monica. Kylie, she said, go, Monica. Okay, fantastic. Libby, they were not jazz hands. They were acid house hands. They're different. So, team, wasn't that just moving? I mean, there's moving and there's just actually just what Jamie just went through. Look, I think that was worth doing. I think I'm going to remember that forever, to be honest. you're all feeling. The comments are just stunning. And I think that maybe has helped us. So what I thought we'd do in the final few minutes of our gig today is talk about research dissemination and then moving a little bit into professional development, because in tomorrow's gig, we're going to finish off with Fabulous Friday, but do questions and answers. And a lot of the questions and the answers I've already gathered from you all and from Twitch this morning are about careers and about publishing. So I just wanted to set the scene on that. And I particularly want to talk about, there's a lot of tragedy going on at the moment where they're just going to post the question for you, where a lot of people that were heading to conferences, I'm talking tens of thousands of people around the world who were heading to conferences, got funding to go for conferences. And all of a sudden, all the travel stopped. I think the last flight out of Adelaide, it was an Emirates flight, the last flight out of Adelaide left last night. So that's it until we don't know when, right? So, and seriously, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 3 months. We don't know we just don't know. But what we do know is conferences are going to take probably 6 to 12 months to get going again, because organising a conference is a big deal. But the online conferences are emerging and they are quite important. Now, can I just say, I have a very odd relationship with conferences. Basically I do a keynote or I don't really bother going to conferences, and that sounds a bit drag queeny, because I sort of mean it, because the sustainability of travel and air travel worries me a lot, has for years. The time that's wasted going to and from airports and all that sort of stuff, is it worth it? So I've always worried a great deal about conferences and the sustainability of the travel, to be honest with you. So let's think about that. So what I want us to think about now is the capacity and the potential of online conferences for academic clustering, right? It is a thing. Online conferences, sometimes they were called digital conferences or virtual conferences. They've been with us for a while. I think I did my first keynote via online delivery 2016. So they've been around for a long time. And what I wanted to show to you is, there's a great article in the Inside Higher Education recently, post Corona time, that's looked at shifting a conference online. Now, a lot of conferences are shifting online, and gaining the skills that you need to disseminate and deliver through an online environment, they are different skills, okay? And so therefore do think about that, because if you're in the middle of a truncated PhD program and you want to go to a conference, if you're waiting for the analog conferences and the flights to come back, you're going to be waiting a real long time. So online conferences are probably the goer for all of us. So just have a look at that link, have a look at the potential. I think I'm doing another keynote that's an online keynote, I think in a couple of months. So I'm working through the scenarios and the strategies to make that a really great experience for viewers as well. So let's together think about what sort of skills are involved in that. All right, so let's now move to the professional development little bit of this story, and we'll come back to the conferences. Let's have a look. I'll just go back to the questions for a second. Conferences will go online. Yes, Amanda, they will. Absolutely. Liz has done a conference. It needs to be presented in a slower manner, more pictorial, that's a great word, as people and ITs differ, and really focus on the fine details. Oh, read Liz's comment. Terrific. Julie's said publishing tips would be so much appreciated. I'll be doing that for you. And I know a lot of these Scandinavian countries have done fantastic work with online delivery. I did a great gig in Finland a couple of years ago. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Now, Claudia said Griffith University has asked the money back from those going to conferences. Stopped completely. So online conferences are the future of sustainability. And look, Claudia, you and I have talked about this outside of this vibe. You and I are a bit obsessed about this. The time has come, and this is where I hope sort of the world does change from this point. Sustainability matters. It does. We can't pretend that it doesn't matter. And when we think about getting on a flight, we need to have 3 or 4 thoughts about that before we agree to go. And if there is an alternative way to do it that's efficient and productive and has your goals and achievements and your outcomes in place, then wow, we should really do that. Okay, so what I just want to go now to is the professional development opportunities. I'll just have a quick look at Kylie's comment, team. So let's have a look at Kylie. The Asset Management Council did an online conference recently before this craziness, and then you also had 2 to 3 weeks to rewatch the presentations. Fabulous idea. Kylie, that's the point. This stuff has already existed and always existed in a really interesting way. And so now is the time for us to generalize that expertise. So Outliers brought this up as an important thing. Let's now centralize it, generalize it, gain the professional development, and let's all do this. Fantastic, amazing comment as always. So in our final few minutes, team, let's now move to professional development, noting that this is going to lead the way into our gig tomorrow. So I'm very interested, and Resh was great on this yesterday, I'm very interested in what happens next. So yes, you're in a PhD program, and that's crucial, but a PhD program is transitory. It's leading you to something else. A PhD is a pointer. It points you to the next step, whatever that next step may be. And therefore, we've got to say, yes, we're in this moment and all this chaos and trauma is occurring around us, but it still remains a pointer. So how can you suck the marrow out of this time, this troubling time, and then make it work for you to take the next stage? Remember, Jamie left because he's doing an interview. He's appointing people today. Don't think the world has stopped. Wow, it hasn't. So the question for us to focus on the last few minutes, team, and I'll post it, is here. Boom. Okay, so how do you feel about your skill base at the moment? How do you feel about your skill base at the moment? Are you lacking some skills that suddenly you need? You know, you're sort of doing it as you've always done it, as your undergraduate, did a coursework masters, and everything's going incredibly well. And then something like this occurs and work changes. There's no other way to frame it. Learning changes. And then you suddenly think, wow, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And the response to knowing what you don't know is either panic or just dummy spit, like, yeah, no, I'm out. Or actually, you know what, I need to learn that. This is an opportunity to add a line to my CV. Let me do it. So let's think about that. And team, if you can, in response to my question, think about the skill sets. I see people doing that already. Yes, absolutely. Oh, and Claudia's made a point. This is so important for crew with impairments and disabilities too. This alternative way of organising knowledge and information. I mean, this is universal design. This was the project that all of us believed in so desperately 20 years ago, and we failed existentially. And now is an opportunity to go again and aim for universal design. So let's talk about this PD in these final few minutes. The legend that is Resh, brother, the legend that is Resh. Resh did, post our coffee morning yesterday morning, he did 4 LinkedIn learning courses yesterday with certificates. Oh, I saw the certificates, Resh. Great certificate. I love a good certificate. Now, that's terrific. And you could see Resh was incredibly proud of himself. All his friends were incredibly proud of himself because he made a decision yesterday to learn something. And I find that incredibly inspiring. And I found a couple of other fantastic courses, which I'm going to do on Saturday, to be honest with you. And I'm just going to send them to you now. The first one is from the legendary, love you, Resh, love you. The first one is from the legendary Edinburgh University, one of the greatest universities in the world. We've got a lot of Scots on the call. Big hi. Hello, Scotland. The wonderful Edinburgh University, tremendous university. They've produced this fantastic course on the digital footprint. Tremendous course, unbelievable, and I'm going to try and do that on Saturday afternoon. So have a look at that. If nothing else, the language used in that course is incredibly important in terms of enabling your CV. I also, I'm obsessed by information literacy, and I just say this, and I must get upset. Oh dear. As you know, in the Australian government, don't know about governments around the world, you can tell us, but a decision was made to close libraries a couple of days ago. And and of course online libraries are still functional, thank the gods that they exist. But librarians, as I've often said, librarians are the Jedi Knights of our culture. And you know libraries, librarians, information literacy is the foundation of citizenship. And one of the reasons we're in the pretty bad situation we are at the moment is because we are lacking information literacy. So that's my thing. And we wish all the librarians who are going through a very challenging time, it must have broken your collective hearts to close a lot of those libraries. You have to, for your own health. You have to, for your own health and the well-being of your patrons and citizens. But I understand the complexity of that decision, because a whole series of people now are lacking the capacity to read and interpret and share and think. So I really understand that. But what I did want to do, the legendary Open University, which is just one of the truly greatest institutions on this planet, has produced a whole fantastic series of information and digital, but information literacy programs for students. So I've put the link in there. That's for undergraduates, honours, coursework students, but also PhD students. And a lot of that material is also free. So please use that. They have just a phenomenal, it was the most famous distance education provider on planet Earth, David Attenborough. BBC Two, David Attenborough was involved in this project. So incredibly significant project, and they've continued to be incredible innovators in information literacy, digital literacy, media literacy, and multi-modality. So what a course like that can do for you is build up new knowledge. So what I hope for all of you is every day, and Narelle and I talked about this yesterday with Jamie, what I want for all of you every day is at the start of your day to say, what am I going to learn today? And at the end of your day, when you're just having a nice hot chocolate and a marshmallow, or a nice little bit of Savvy Block, if you're having a nice little drink, you go, right, what did I learn today? How have I as a person changed today? How am I a different person tonight than I was when I woke up this morning? And that comes with an infusion of new ideas. And there are a couple of options for you there as well. So final couple of minutes, I wanted to just present some links about publishing that we can keep going with tomorrow. So what I want for you, and I'll post the question, team, and it's a biggie for the next little bit of your lives, is let's now talk about publishing. Now, what are your publishing priorities for the next 3 months? Say 6, but say 3 months. Do you have targets? And if you don't, now is the time to think through those targets. So again, here are some important sites for your consideration. Great politics, can I say? Let's start with directory of open access journals. I've loved them. I have loved them, so I continue to love them. Fantastic organisation. Those of you that are interested in platinum open access journals, open access, open source material and journals, I go there every day. So that's where I go. If I've got an article that I want to see politically, what is the best place to present and position that research, I start at the directory of open access journals. I also wanted to link for you, team, particularly those of you in the humanities and the social sciences. And well done, Carol. I've started a blog to disseminate my research. Absolutely perfect. Well done. For those guys and gals in the humanities and the social sciences, the University of Penn site is magnificent. As I often say, it has years where it's dormant and then years when it's firing back into action. And at the moment, it's one of those times. So really do enjoy that. Also, I'll put in place, team, the call for papers database. It tends to be US focused, but that's great too. So again, have that as a useful variable for you. So the questions I have to finish us off today is think about what opportunities are available to you today. What opportunities are available? And the question is, I suppose, hello, gorgeous Katie. Love to see you, my darling. The question is, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do right now to transform your life, your thesis, your research. Think about what is worrying you, what is frightening you, what is concerning you. Do think about that and express those thoughts. Express the fear. Get that out. Be honest with yourself. But then say, right, well, they are the fears. And how am I going to progress my life, my research, my family today? This is a time to publish. This is a time to disseminate. This is a time to use research to change the world. We need you. We really, really need you. So it is important that we remain socially engaged, but we're also intellectually engaged. You are brilliant people. Bring the brains to the table. Don't get lost in the fear. Don't get lost in the worry. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. So team, for our final coffee morning tomorrow morning, for our final coffee morning tomorrow morning, we'll be doing questions and answers. I think I've already got 35 questions. You can ask me anything, and I mean anything, and I'm excited about everything. So please list any and all questions you would like me to start answering, and the wonderful, brilliant people can finish answering those questions. So ask me any questions. So for the last time tomorrow morning, we will share this time, if not this space. So everyone, thank you so much for being a part of this incredibly moving morning. I certainly won't forget this time that we've shared. I feel a different person than I was an hour ago. And now, noting the time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. For those of you at the end of the day, sleep well and see you tomorrow. Take care all. You are splendid humans. Go out and be amazing. See ya. Bye-bye.